Hello, it's week 15 of season 6 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Girl Shy. Buddy, what's going on in Girl Shy?
Helen and Andy are discussing where they should go out to eat tomorrow night. And Aunt Dee suggests a new Chinese place in Mount Tylet. And Helen says yes, but she also says Chinese places are better with more folks, so you can try more stuff. And she knows a new girl in town, Sue McGrath, who works over at the dime store. Maybe they can ask her to go if they could find her a date. And Andy's not real big on the idea, but he agrees to see whether Warren would like to be her date.
And Warren seems to like the idea of going out for Chinese food, but then he balks when Andy says they've got a date for him. And this is after he was just talking about how ladies were all over him in the town where he used to live.
He makes an excuse that his blue suit is in the cleaners, and he wouldn't feel right not trottily dressed on a date. And then Warren's going to stay in the courthouse overnight, 'cause some company that his landlord is having over is using Warren's room. And right before Andy and Helen go to the restaurant, Andy gets called to go help out with an accident scene. And Helen says she'll find something to do until Andy gets back. She goes into the courthouse where Warren is set up for the night. But she can see that she's obviously making Warren uncomfortable being there, alone with her, so she goes to a movie.
And then Goober comes in and they watch TV together on the portable TV that Warren brought from his place. It's a show about an international secret agent who's real suave with the ladies.
And then Goober leaves and Warren falls asleep. And Helen comes back in and sees Warren asleep and sits at the desk till late. And Warren wakes up, or it looks like he wakes up, and he comes out to the front room and talks to Helen like the agent talked to the lady on the show, about the light shimmering through her hair, and with two folks square their neck to each other, etc. And he starts chasing her, and she puts herself in the jail cell to get away from him.
And then Andy comes back and finds Helen in the cell, and she tells Andy that Warren chased her in there, but by that time Warren's back asleep.
And Andy wakes him up and demands an explanation. He says, "What is this about you chasing Helen?" Warren says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been asleep this whole time." And Helen gets mad and tells Andy he chased her, and that he should do something about it, or she's going home. And she leaves, and Andy goes after her. And the next day, Warren tells Goober that he must be a sleepwalker. He tells him what he now believes that he did do to Helen last night. And Goober suggests that he just explain this to Andy. And Warren says no, Andy wouldn't want a sleepwalker as a deputy. He's just going to hope the whole thing blows over.
Meanwhile, Andy's trying to convince Helen that he's going to straighten this out. He tells her to stop by the courthouse later and he'll try to have something to report.
But Warren had stayed up all the rest of the night, so his sleepwalking wouldn't happen again. So while Andy's interrogating him, Warren keeps yawning. And Andy gets a call to go help somebody, and when he gets off the phone, Warren is asleep. And Andy leaves, and Helen walks in. And then Warren gets up and starts putting the news on Helen again. And when Andy comes back, Helen's in the jail cell again, and Warren is asleep again. And Helen's mad and she leaves. And this time Andy's had it. He fires Warren. So as Warren tacks to leave town, he gives Goober some of his things. And Goober convinces Warren to tell Andy about his sleepwalking. He says, "You're fired anyway, so what have you got to lose?"
So Warren calls Andy and says he wants to explain. And Warren and Andy and Helen and Aunt Bee all get together at Andy's house. And Andy and Helen argue in the kitchen because he didn't tell Helen that Warren would be there.
And meanwhile, in the living room, Warren falls asleep. And Aunt Bee, who is sitting next to him, tries an experiment. She puts on some dance music, and Warren starts dancing with Aunt Bee, which proves that he's a sleepwalker. And afterwards, Warren says now that this is all out in the open, this might be the end of it. That night, he handcuffs himself to his bed just to make sure.
We'll see you next week for episode 16.